Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Jack, Conrad, 45, match week 23, the Sunday and Monday matches. We thought there were going to be some interesting things here this weekend, and some of the things that we thought were going to be interesting turned out to be not all that interesting. But I think Spurs fans will be excited and interested in what happened with the return of Harry Kane. Nobody saw that one coming, certainly not us. Curious if Mourinho was going to make this tactical change. He played this, the two deeper lying midfielders with Højbjerg and Ndombele with the four attacking up front. They looked really, really good. Very different approach. Dominated the ball in possession. I think almost 65% of possession, which is not what this Spurs team has been doing of late. But a lot of good looks in the first half. All the scoring came in the second via goals from Kane and Son in the span of 5 minutes, 54th and 58th, I believe. Spurs dominant. Shots, possession, touches, passes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No Dyer after a few mistake-prone outings. Concerned about Serge Aurier going forward. Really not much to say about West Brom other than that they were there and Sam rang the changes. He had 5 different players in that starting 11. Didn't matter.
They created a few chances. 0.64 XG. That isn't too bad, I guess. Other than that, all Spurs. You mentioned, is it front four or is it Kane? I think it's both. Because you need Kane for this to be a functional, effective unit up front. And if Mourinho's ever going to have trust in his ability to go forward, it has to have Kane and Son there. I mean, simple as that, because they are lacking in a lot of talent in a lot of areas. I like Højbjerg and Ndombele as a pivot. Maybe it limits Ndombele a little bit in terms of his ability to go forward, his license to roam forward, as he's very good on both sides of the ball. But a lot of reason for positivity for Spurs, because sides ahead of you, Everton, Man United, Liverpool, even West Ham as well, all dropping points, as well as Arsenal losing to Aston Villa, so you stayed ahead of them and moved further away from Arsenal. So a great result all around for them. And with Kane back, a lot of reason for optimism. So a good one for Spurs on Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he keeps that formation going forward, because it does give him the defensive cover that he's really looking for without having to play so defensively, having those two guys in front of that back four, especially if he's got to make some changes there on the outside. Wolves and Leicester. We thought this was going to be a good game. It turned out to not that it was a bad game, but it just didn't go anywhere. I think it did have some bright spots for Wolves and Leicester. The return of Johnny for Wolves for a half certainly was wonderful to see. He looked very good. And then you saw Vardy returning for Foxes. It's a good sign for Brendan Rodgers and that club moving forward. Wolves maybe a little bit unlucky in this one. They did have the better part of the XG, 1.6 to 1.1. But just kind of an unremarkable football match.
It was a 0-0. There were chances, but it wasn't one of those where you're saying, oh my God, how is this 0-0? But it was just kind of those, oh wow, probably someone should have scored. But I think this reflects both teams' inability to be clinical, can create chances very well from the midfield, because they're both, I think, stellar in that regard, and they both have good defensive units. Wolves maybe not so much this year compared to Leicester, who have been pretty good in that regard. But this, I think, is as unremarkable as you say. I think it's a better result for Wolves because Leicester are third, you're 14th. If you say, the usual narrative on a 14th place versus third place team, if the 14th place team gets any points, it's a great result. It's just that these two teams are so similar in reputation and standard in the past few years that I think we associate them very closely. But good result for Wolves. Good for Leicester to get Vardy back. Liverpool next, which having him back fit is going to be a huge deal for them because Liverpool are struggling massively at the moment. So having him back is going to be a big improvement for them to try and keep some ground ahead of Liverpool, which is surprising at this point in the year that they have that advantage for them.
Yeah, Wolves have Southampton coming up, and as you mentioned, Leicester-Liverpool, interesting 3-4 matchup. But I think they've got to Leicester has to find a way to take advantage of that. Liverpool not playing all that well right now. On the day where the American Football Championship was decided, we had the last two proper football champions of England. What we thought was going to be an interesting matchup. Klopp decided to stick with midfielders in the heart of his defense, which probably makes sense. You don't want to put K-back out there against City. But Liverpool bad, City very, very good, and Alisson exceptionally very terrible, horrible bad. You cannot gift a club as talented as City with those two types of poor passes. They absolutely capitalized on it ruthlessly. City did. Guardiola's side, they were just lethal. Foden was the best player on the pitch by a long margin, miles. City now 10 points ahead of a fourth-place Liverpool, and they still have the game in hand.
Yep.
So 50 points in first, Liverpool fourth and 40.
Yeah, title's over for Liverpool. I think we kind of said similar things against Brighton, but this match, I think, this is the well and truly the nail in the coffin. City have now conceded 14 goals. Liverpool's 29. That means they've conceded literally less than half of the amount of Liverpool have in one game less. So once they are even on games, assuming they don't concede 2 or 3, they will have a far better defensive clip. If I'm Klopp, this match, I'll liken it a lot to the Villa one. The performance was not bad. It wasn't a bad performance. There was just incredibly bad individual errors from Alisson, and you didn't have center backs. So to take long-term ramifications from this, I think it's tough. This year, I'm not going to write it off. What you have to do, get top 4, make a run of the Champions League. And this year is not salvaged, but you go again next year with 3 of your center backs back fit. And it's tough in, early February to write off a Liverpool season considering how good they've been in the last 2-3 years. But it's the simple reality that they are not as good as they are when they have Van Dijk, when they have Gomez, when they have Matip. And expecting them to be mentally fit without the fans, with the pandemic, it's unrealistic. So if you're Liverpool, you need to win your next 2 matches against Leicester and Everton, one side ahead of you, one side chasing you, because top 4 is not a guarantee. And I think you need to get Kabak in, you need to get Davies in, play your midfielders in the midfield, play your center backs at center back. I think it's going to be a big deal for them going forward that integrate Kabak and Davies, get some youth players going, and make a run at the Champions League. The season does not have no potential rooms for positives, but rooms for repeating the title, completely over my eyes.
Gone. City it's inevitable. They just are so.
And the last thing I'll say about it is this is so disappointing because this was such a great season. There was so much. Oh wow, it's so crazy, and now City is going to run away with it. And maybe I'll be proven wrong. I would love nothing more than be proven wrong. I cannot see Manchester United or Liverpool or Leicester City getting anywhere close to how good Man City are. They don't have Aguero, they don't have De Bruyne, and they put 4 past Liverpool at Anfield. Yes, no fans, but they finally broke that Anfield duck for 17, 18 years.
Yeah. Sheffield United, Chelsea. 3 straight wins now for Tuchel. Chelsea conceded their first goal since he took over. Granted, it was Rudiger's own goal. But Werner really was the difference here. He gave them the lead early or in the first half with the cutback pass to Mason Mount, and he drew the penalty in the second half for Jorginho's winner. Sheffield's hope of staying up are growing dimmer and dimmer, while Chelsea may be ready to. They won't, to your point, they won't mount a title charge, but top four for sure. They will absolutely be there.
I think Leicester and Liverpool are very concerned right now. Maybe even Manchester United about how on form this Chelsea side are, because they are very, very good defensively. As you mentioned, only the own goal that they allowed this one. 0.81 XG is not great. I think their XGs haven't been great, so I imagine after the honeymoon period is over, they will drop some results. Newcastle next. That has, I think, trap game all over it for if you're Chelsea. But Sheffield United, there are a bit of concerns because, yes, they've gotten much closer to their Fulham and West Broms around them, but they need to get a lot closer to Burnley, who they're 12 points off of. So it's not the end of the world. There's still 15 matches left. That being said, we've been saying there's still blank matches left for a long time now, and they're running out of matches at this point. So I'm interested.
15 matches.
The last thing I'll say is getting Timo Werner back. Now, he hasn't scored a goal, but him being much more of an influence is a huge deal. If they can get that for Havertz as well, this is a huge potential for so much positive this season for Chelsea, still in the Champions League, 100% in the top 4 race. You're only a point off of Liverpool, 4 off of Leicester, and 6 off of Man United. So they could very easily see themselves as a second-place team and make a push next year for a title race, which I know we said how great this year was. Next year, shaping up to be even better.
Next up, Leeds, Crystal Palace. Good Leeds. This was good Leeds. Their 10th win in the league gets them in 10th spot on 32 points, 1 point ahead of Arsenal. Leeds just so dangerous, relentless, exhausting with their style of play, and Palace could not play their way into this match at all. We talked about Zaha being out and the problems that was going to present for Roy Hodgson and the rest of this side. It was evident from the first whistle.
It was just different class. And Leeds in the top 10. Wow. I mean, we had been hinting all of our positive praise of them for the last couple of weeks with, but they're in the bottom half. They're kind of close to relegation. Well, now they're not. They're in the top half. Palace are 29 points. They're only 6 ahead of Burnley, who are on the doorstep of relegation. So I think it was your prediction of them getting relegated. It's not out of the picture. It's not out of the picture yet.
3 losses, 2 wins in their last 5. So it's not bad from Palace, but no Zaha. They're not.
Exactly, yeah. And that was always going to be a problem, not having those players. One last thing I'll say, unrelated to everything. I was looking at 13th place seeing Palace, and I looked over and I saw a bunch of red. I assumed it was them. It's Southampton who have lost 5 straight games. I believe since they beat Liverpool, they've just dropped 5 straight.
Yeah.
They're the only team who've lost 5 straight.
And that 9-0.
Yeah, I mean, this league's crazy. It's crazy.
So Palace next up against Burnley. Hope to get healthy there. Leeds next up against Arsenal. So it'll be a 10th versus 11th matchup there to see who can stick in the top half. Can Leeds stay there? Can Arsenal leapfrog them yet again? Jack, Conrad, this has been the 45, our look back at the Sunday and Monday matches of Week 23. Please do comment. Let us know what you think in the comments. Subscribe. Look for us on the Twitter at the 45. Take care now.